trade is a witty topic. And basically at the moment we've moved out of more or less of the political diplomacy, and we're more talking about the economic diplomacy side. AFCFTA has come in. And not only AFCFTA, we have the EAC framework, we have the COMESA, we have so many trade agreements that have been there. But the main challenge is kicking in where it comes to actual execution. And what I mean by actual execution is that what a normal trader wants to see is that am I able to ship, am I able to invest, am I able to access a service from another African country without the barriers that have been there. The AFCFTA has provided the framework, but now cascading it downwards is now where we are now. Now, the company I operate or I run is called Real Sources Africa. We are basically a trade facilitator on behalf of the AFCFTA. Now, what the AFCFTA has done, they realize that they've done the policy work. But now they need the policy to cascade down for a normal trader.
Correct.
Which can only be done by a fellow trader. So they went ahead and appointed what we call AFCFTA trading companies. And the main role of these trade companies just make sure we are able to cascade down the knowledge, but from an execution standpoint. Now, from a real sources standpoint, we have been in this space for quite some time, dealing with SMEs, trying to aggregate, trying to structure the logistical side of it, until we've actually realized that as much as we normally say, and I know quite a number of people may agree or disagree, by saying that logistics is the main challenge. But I think logistics, or that being a challenge, is the last part of the puzzle.
Correct.
We need to work backwards and ask ourselves, why is logistics the challenge? I'd say that the reason logistics is a challenge is because we don't have enough demand to warrant for excess supply, or lack of a better word, I'd say, we need a lot of demand for movement of cargo so that we're able to cut down the cost of logistics.
Sure.
Now, what Real Sources is trying to envision is how can we support execution of trades? You know, e-commerce has come and offered information platforms or information portals, whereby I may know there is, for example, tea in Kenya, there is coffee in Kenya, but everything goes south when we're trying to convert that inquiry to an actual deal. And we realize that e-commerce, yes, is one of the solutions, but also how can you digitally support execution of inquiries, structuring of these inquiries, and being able to offer one information pack, but also being able to offer the due diligence that is required, create a structure of a transaction that will lead to execution. But if execution cannot happen, why can't you offer an information pack to these entities that when later they are ready to transact, then we can discuss about the trade itself.
Interesting. And you raise a very pertinent issue, because when we look at intra-African trade, it's at a level of about 17%. Compare this to what you're seeing in other developed economies, it's way higher, above 40%. But one of the other biggest hurdles has been the payment systems. When it comes to people doing trade in Africa, there's of course the currency challenge, and of course the other thing now is on the payment front. We've not had sufficient innovation, especially when it comes to Pan-African payment systems. We do know that there is of course what the AU has been doing, as well as AFCFTA. At your level, how critical will this be, especially in being able to unlock new trade deals that can propel businesses to be able to trade seamlessly?
Now, I look at payments on a two-tier front. One, there is the actual remittance, but also there's a trust component that comes in. Before I even get to make the decision to make that payment, I have to trust that one, I'm paying for a product, my product will be delivered, or there is money sitting somewhere that gives me comfort to produce so that I'm going to get paid after my production is done. But the second tier is the aspect of now the actual movement of goods, funds. Now, there's what we call the Pan-African payment system. It's a platform built in conjunction between the Afreximbank and the AFCFTA. And what they're trying to do is create a remittance infrastructure that will use local currencies. We might get to one harmonized currency, but it may take a bit of time. So how can we harmonize and create an infrastructure whereby we're able to transact with our local currencies? And I applaud what the Afrexim is doing with that. And through the PAPS infrastructure, we're seeing transactions in the day in, day out, or whereby people are paying their local currencies. But for us to support PAPS, we have to be having actual trades. Because how PAPS works is that you're going to make payment in your local currency. There has to be demand for that local currency for settlements to be made.
Yeah.
So an example, if you trade between Kenya and say Uganda, so there needs to be demand for the Kenya shilling.
Yeah.
There needs to be demand for Uganda shillings.
Correct.
So still goes to the trade.
Yeah.
Because if there's no trade happening between Kenya
Yeah.
and Uganda,
Yeah.
then it means there'll be no demand for the local currencies.
Yeah.
And that makes it perhaps more difficult to operationalize.
Yeah.
And the whole conversation about payment still, in one or another, still goes back to the trade conversation. But most importantly, the two major components for payments to work. One, the trust component has to be there. And to build the trust components, we have to start thinking about escrow payment infrastructure, whereby banks, financial institutions can hold finances in lien. One, what that does, it gives you the comfort as a trader or the buyer that my funds have not yet been disbursed until the terms as per our contractual obligations have been met. But also gives confidence to the seller that funds are available. And the only thing I need to do is fulfill my end of the bargain and the transaction is completed.
Is this something you're working on?
It's something we're working on.
How soon should we expect this, and how much of a revolution will it cause?
Now, we're rolling out actually the 3rd of February this year.
Okay.
And what we're trying to roll out is an execution engine that brings in together a 7-tier component, which is one, able to capture inquiries, able to KYC or due diligence. There are two kinds of due diligence. There's due diligence on the inquiry itself.
Yeah.
And there's due diligence on the person making the inquiry. That step is a structuring. Are we able to make sense out of this transaction? An example, if someone would say, I want to supply tea to Kenya, the probability of that supply is extremely low because we already have surplus.
Yeah.
But at the same time, on the structuring process is being able to look at, one, the market analysis. Is there demand for that product in that particular market? But secondly, is the policy work fit to absorb the product in that particular market? But at the same time, does the person who is making the inquiry have the capacity either to source or the capacity to supply? Now, once you moved off structuring, we develop what we call a structured deal sheet. This structured deal sheet goes in for matchmaking. Now, if it's not ready for matchmaking, we generate what we call an information pack. This info pack doesn't say that we cannot trade with you, but we're telling you, you need to meet a certain threshold, or you need to provide extra documentation, but we give you market insights, demand and supply insights, policy work insights, to be able to guide you that when you're ready, you have enough information to move to the next stage. Now, from structuring, we go to matchmaking. Now, being able to matchmake your needs with the right counterparties. Now, once matchmaking is done, we go to an aspect of negotiations, which goes to contracting. Now, in the negotiation room, you can have 10 different entities. We call them private deal rooms. You can have 10 different entities negotiating with you to either supply you or to either source from you as a product. And now, let me just go back a little bit. Commodities is one side. But the platform is able to handle not only commodities, but we can handle commodities, we can handle services, we can handle investments, we can handle financing, we can handle labor, and we can handle government relations. Surprisingly, the pilots we've done, we've realized that there's a lot of demand for services. We only think about export and think about commodity, actual trucks moving, but there's actual major demand for services, web development services, legal consultancy services, market development kind of services. And I'll shock you that most of the brands before they export, there's a small service there of market development services that comes in before we get to the whole actual movements. There's a policy and compliance aspect or a feasibility study that comes in before we actually get to export the product. And these are some of the services that are coming out quite strongly. But just go back from structuring, we've gone to matchmaking, we've gone to negotiations, we go to execution. In the execution, we've partnered with local banks. the likes of Equity Bank and KCB Bank, to try and make sure that the escrow payment infrastructure is in place.
Correct.
Remember, these banks, mainly, for example, in EAC, they are in the enter of EAC.
Yeah.
So you look at it in this perspective. If you were to look at someone like Equity Bank, they have a database of over 20 million customers within the region. So there's a customer who is sourcing from DRC, has an account inside Equity Bank. There's a customer who is in Kenya who can supply the same product, but they are not communicating among each other. And this is what this infrastructure is doing, but also supporting the payment side of it. Now someone can walk into a bank, make their payments, the payment can reflect on your side. It's on escrow held basis until the terms of engagement as per the contractual obligation or as per the term sheet are made. That's when banks release these particular resources.
Okay.
And we go all the way from execution to now going to an aspect of if there's any dispute, we have a dispute settlement mechanism. And interestingly, or the most impressive feature from the platforms themselves is that we do not charge any commissions. It is purely a subscription-based platform. And the payment structure comes on tokens. And we're trying to make sure that any SME or any corporate can spend a maximum of $25 from inquiry generation to matchmaking to negotiation all the way to execution. Because another challenge comes in. If I was to bill you a 5% commission or a 2% commission on inquiry, what is the difference between me who's saying is that facilitator and someone who is still back there in town who will charge you a similar commission? Doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make sense,
And the whole point is to bridge the gap between a corporate and an MSME, that anyone can actually export, anyone can actually import, and not only commodities, but also services, investment, financing, basically looking at creating a workflow that can define what tangible trade looks like.
All right. And in closing, I'd like to know, what does the future of trade look like for you, considering that you are literally having a vantage view sitting in the cockpit?
Now, I always say that trade is not, you can never have a conversation about trade. Trade is an action. You have to execute. The future of trade has to bring in as many executors as we can. If we're able to bring actual implementers, and we talk about KPIs that look at how much of commodities have we been able to move, how much of financing have we been able to unlock, how much of investments have we been able to unlock, how much of even labor or services have we been able to move. The future of trade will lie on the practicability of the implementation aspect of trade. Because once we start moving one container, once we start moving X number of services, promoting X number of investments, the lessons we learn as we go will help us build into the future. We can never talk about trade. Trade is an implementable aspect. And the more we implement, the more we become much better. I look forward to a future whereby we will not have one Felix, but we will have 100 of us trying to make it work. Fail as we go, wake up, implement again and again until we get it right. That is the only thing that will define what trade will look like in this continent.